This is Office Hours, where the brightest entrepreneurial minds in business, sports, and entertainment get together to talk about success, failure, and everything in between. Take a deep dive into the mindset it takes to excel as our unbelievable hosts and guests share with you the strategies and tools they've used to dominate their respective fields. On this episode of Office Hours, Anthony Sandria.
He is the CEO of Pocket Your Dollars, an extraordinary company growing so fast. He's a 30 under 30 kid. But Anthony, I want to get started because one of the things I see through the transformation of Pocket Your Dollars is something I learned from my mentor, Dr. Jacobs from Qualcomm. He was walking me around Qualcomm, and he has all this intellectual property from the 60s, even the 50s, and we're talking together, and he said, Dave, what business am I in? And I said, you're in the CDMA chip business, the phone business. He said, no. Guess again. I said, I don't know, you're in the hardware business? He said, I'm in the owning the customer business. See, David, if you want to be successful, you need to provide value to the customer and own the customer, and you can sell them whatever you want. You can sell them shoes, insurance, whatever it is you want if you own the customer through credibility and emotional attachment. And Anthony, I think out of all the young entrepreneurs I get to work with, you nailed it. You own the customer in a very high margin capacity in the financial services space especially. When and how did you realize something that took me almost a lifetime to figure out, of owning the customer, and how important is it to own the customer?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I started in my dorm room, a traditional internet marketing agency, hire for services. And, I met with a mentor similar to you, and he said, you have a loser model. And I was like, oh shit, I thought I was doing pretty good. What do you mean? He's like, you trade hours for money. You have to scale by people. And I said, okay. So what we did was we productized the service. So we started selling customers. So really, to your point, what I learned was the best business is the business of saving or making other people money. And that's what we do on both ends. So similar to at first, we said we're in the lead generation business. We're in the customer generation business. But we're in the business of saving Americans money. And then for our publicly traded partners, we're in the business of making them money. So we were now incentivized to only have Geico pay us when they actually enroll a customer. So we needed to get the right customer to Geico's doorstep, meaning we had to find someone who could benefit from Geico's services. So it was a win-win across the board, and we sit, to your point, right in the middle. We spend, tens of thousands of dollars a day on paid advertisements, driving customers for different financial products where we're saving them money, getting connected to the right financial product, and allowing these publicly traded companies to essentially enroll a new customer, for lack of better words.
Anthony, with the analytics and everything that changes on social media and different platforms, my business as well spends a lot of money on lead gen, and we have vendors, and we're always trying to find ways to stay ahead of the curve, but things change all the time. What are you doing in your business, and what can you give viewers out there knowledge of how to stay ahead of that as algorithms and analytics have to change?
Longer standing companies, spend a lot of money on TV, and then TiVo came along and being able to skip. If you had retail distribution last year in COVID, you found out, oh shoot, that may, there might be some problems with that when people can't go to the stores. So, I think any marketing distribution platform or medium is always evolving and changing. So it's not a groundbreaking answer, but I think it's the right answer. It's really intimately understanding your customer. And I think David will appreciate this. I always joke, I'm a method actor. Like I get I will default on my bills to find out what it feels like to have a debt collector try and collect from you so that we can better have the right conversation with customers. If you're able to really emotionally have a conversation with your customer in the right way, whether that comes out through creative or ad copy or targeting the right audience, whatever that is, I think you're always going to rise to the top. So to answer your question, it's really intimately doubling down on understanding your customer is how we've been able to weather the storm through all different social media updates or any platform updates in general. So it might be, we put more allocation towards TikTok as it came up. We were one of the first advertisers on TikTok. Great, that went up to the moon because we saw consumer behavior. Oh, maybe now we got to transition over to more YouTube. People are digesting more news content on there. So now we're going to be more news focused content versus, just a customer talking on their cell phone. Like those tactics will keep evolving, but I think as close to the ear you can have. Steve Wynn, I think, had a a beautiful lesson. And he said he spends a disproportionate amount of his time with the bellhop, and the bellhop is closest to the customer. And he said they understand the customer better than anyone else. So I think adopting that same mentality in anyone listening's business, the closer, as the companies grow, you get further from the customer, where I think we should be actually be getting closer to actually having our ears to the ground so that we can make the strategic decisions that now echo throughout the organization.
I'm wondering, Anthony, if you have been able to identify certain pools of customers that you can trade or point a pool of these customers into a very diverse selection of services or products. In other words, will this pool buy from here, here, and here, and this other pool might buy over here, here, and there? Can you group them together that way?
Absolutely. On a simple, standpoint, you do it by age, right? So in the senior market, what do they need? They're worried about their health, maybe their Medicare coverage. Maybe they need to make sure they have the right life insurance coverage, or annuities, or retirement, or walk-in bathtubs, right? Like there's all these things around, you can do it by age as someone listening. You could do it by gender. For us, we found a pocket even in Christianity, right? Like people who are more religious. It's actually, I grew up Catholic, the cross, but it's actually in the Bible that it's against a religion you're a slave to your creditors. So it really is heartfelt to be in financial woes and troubles and problems. So to answer your question, absolutely, there's pockets anywhere from age to gender to interest to religion, even, where certain pockets of people are more interested in potentially getting out of debt versus saving money on their auto insurance, or making sure they have the right life insurance policy. They don't have kids and they're not married. I'm not that worried about my life insurance policy. Someone who's got, 2 young kids that were just got married, they're going to be more worried about refinancing on their home, life insurance, things like that.
So Anthony, we both are in the guilt pocket, Jewish and Catholic, so we invented it, you perfected it. That's a good pocket to spend on, so that's good. Guilt them into spending.
Well, to that point, Anthony, it's great to meet you, and I love where this is going. And just the name of the company, Pocket Your Dollars. Yeah, every organization, at the end of the day, if you get real simple here, all any organization is a collection of people in a relationship. That's all any organization is. The product and service that any organization sells has to have an impact on the customer. How do I feel about myself when I'm in the presence of your service? How do I feel about myself when I'm in the presence of your product? If I feel uplifted, yes, if I feel empowered, I'm going to hang around, and you're not going to be wanting for clients. So how are you communicating that in both directions? So that you've got actually an interesting conduit here that is frictionless.
For sure, I think it's a couple things. One is, I'm going to come back to this first point, but it's finding a common enemy to throw stones at. I think it is huge in communication. And then secondly, it's to your point, it's what do you really value you're providing? I had a buddy that had a landscaping business, and he said, we have retention problems with employees. We're just cutting grass. That's all we do. I go, you're not cutting grass. He goes, what do you mean? I go, you're giving dads back their Saturday. So why don't you put in the office a rolling clock of every hour that you guys are cutting grass of how many hours we've given dads back? And can you imagine the culture now? You're talking to the communication, but with the employees, when they walk in and they say, I give dads back their Saturday. That's really what they're doing. And then can you imagine the communication with the customer? Like, hey, sir, everyone else competing on price. Like, hey, I want to give you your relationship back with your kid. And then, back to the first point, the common enemy, where we found a really nice niche at the beginning was the credit bureaus having so many inaccurate items. 1 out of every 4 American has an inaccurate item on their credit report. Wow, these credit bureaus that you thought were your friend are actually screwing you over. Like finding that common enemy and aligning with partners with that. The best headline I ever wrote in marketing was, "It's not your fault." And I think a lot of us, even whether you want to, I'm a big fan of taking extreme ownership, but a lot of us, I think, want to feel that empathy that a lot of times this A system, whatever that common enemy has wrong done against you. And I think when you can align with the consumer in that and help them, put your arm around them, metaphorically speaking, and say, hey, you know what? this isn't totally your fault, and I've got a solution for you, you know, and it brings down that, you know, feel good again too. They feel empowered for the first time. Some of these people in decades, they feel empowered about their finances.
Anthony, the CEO of Pocket Your Dollars, which is so important, understanding how to build a marketplace and a brand. Thank you so much for joining us here on Office Hours.
Thank you.
Anthony,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Anthony.
you bet.
Another young superstar. Can't wait to see what he builds over the next. It reminds me of meeting you years ago and watching you take nothing to billions.
You know,
they should make a TV show on Showtime about you.
I don't have that kind of, you know, Tiger King haircut, so I don't know if I can do TV yet. But I love digital marketing, and I love, you know, I get intrigued by it. It's a big platform in our business. So to see somebody that's running a company with affiliates and kind of what he's doing, bringing companies and customers together and cares about the full process, I think is key. I think that's really cool. And people need to understand how this works. You know, what ponds you're dipping in for the customers is all based on their behavior, age, gender, everything, income. That you're able to target certain customers, and that's kind of what he's able to do to help win-win. So
And he
it's great.
cares like you
And
do.
he does care. You could tell.
Speaking of caring, Joni.
I think that's his brilliance, in that he seems like a champion who's been able to monetize championing causes or dysfunctions that people have been exposed to for people. He's very passionate about helping people who have been outwitted by maybe big companies.
Marketing Robin Hood.
Right, exactly.
He's
That's
stealing
kind of
from the
what
rich, giving back to the
That's
poor.
what I think.
His idea of finding a common enemy spoke to a point that I've learned a long time ago, that communication, and this is really true in the marketing arena, communication isn't logical, it's biological. And if you can get people to feel, however that occurs, you're going to have people's attention. You can't just be facts and figures, the algorithm isn't going to do it, you've actually got to connect. And it's a biological process.